play Savage Worlds, whether we're at the table or over the internet. In our role-playing game, fantasy is just the beginning. From the Wild West to the depths of outer space and beyond. Anytime, any place. They're all Savage Worlds.
Howdy, Space Cowpokes! We are here today celebrating the successful launch of Deadlands Lost Colony Mad World. It is already funded. It was funded in just a few minutes, so thank you all for joining us on the third of 4 major adventures in the Lost World Empire. And today we've got Mr. Shane Hensley and Daryl Hayhurst joining us. Thank you for joining, fellas.
Howdy. I still love that intro. Megan and Dom and the rest did such a great job with that. For those who don't know, we actually ran that commercial on Hulu. We ran it on YouTube, and we even played it in theaters. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah. That was really exciting. You get to see like Savage Worlds on the big screen. So, and you're working on that otherwise, right? There's Hollywood deals in the milieu that might happen. So that'd be cool to see it on the big screen.
Yeah, sure would.
So guys, we're going to run through the campaign page here in a minute. But send in your comments, questions for Shane and Daryl. But I get the first one as host privilege. So Shane and Daryl, tell us, what is the story of Deadlands Lost Colony? How does it link to Deadlands Classic? And where are we in the overall arch of the adventure there?
Hey, Daryl, how about I handle the start of it, and then you pick up from the new one on?
Yes, sounds good.
So a long time ago, in a land far away from where I live now, we made Deadlands the Weird West. And then we made Deadlands Hell on Earth. And we were sitting around talking about what to do with the Reckoners at one point. And I had this whole Hellstrom storyline. You know, the whole thing really is about Hellstrom, the whole Deadlands story. It starts with Raven, of course, and the Last Sons in 1876 or 1863, really, and then our story picks up in 1876. But really, the common thread through it all is Dr. Hellstrom. It's a love story, right? He's trying to get back the wife that he lost, and everything that he does is to that end. And by the time of Hell on Earth, he is a brain in a robot body, right? We have some great artwork for that in Deadlands and Hell on Earth, or Lost Colony and Hell on Earth. He realizes he's ruined the world in Hell on Earth, and in an adventure called the Unity, he created a spaceship to go to Hell. That's where his wife's soul is, and he wound up discovering another system. So he discovers the Faraway system, he calls it, and the planet Banshee, and the people who live there are the Inukes. And it turns out the planet is alive, and the Reckoners being something like poison, because they're destructive forces, primal forces of the universe, or so we believe at this point. Hellstrom has a change of heart, realizes he's destroyed the world, and he packages the Reckoners up in that adventure of the Unity and shoots them off to Faraway. So they crash land there, and I'll let Daryl take it from there.
And of course, I muted myself to not make noise there. Yeah. So once you get to Faraway, they've got all of this, life, living, Banshee, the living world, and all of that. And of course, they've got their own problems before we even arrive. Like it's one of those fun things that everyone likes to blame the coming of the humans. Like, oh, you came, you ruined it all. It's like it came pre-ruined. There was already plenty going on, But now the humans are in the same soup as the Inuk and everybody else. And we've got these Reckoners here, and we've got these ancient enemies of the Inuk called the Skinnies running around. And it comes down to, well, the Reckoners are here and they're weak. This is our chance to take them out. And when Shane and company did the Lost Colony for Suede, they made that very clear. And the plot point campaign in the first book is literally taking out war. And one of the wild cards involved in taking out war is Vanessa Hellstrom, the wife of Dr. Hellstrom, who he's rescued from hell, in quotes, because there might be something else going on there, right? And so you got these factions and players like, where do the Skinnies land? Where do the Reckoners land? Where does Vanessa Hellstrom land and all of this? And the heroes are just moving through trying to get rid of these ancient evils. One way or another, war falls during that first plot point. Maybe you beat him legitimately, or maybe his power gets drained and goes to someone else. And then we picked up that thread in Maw of Oblivion. And the notion was like, well, we've got 3 Reckoners left. That sounds like 3 big plot points. And let's just kind of go through them one at a time and finish this story before we find the next big story in Lost Colony, whatever that may be. And then, so Maw of Oblivion, what I wanted to do with that was explore areas that we talk about in the book, but maybe don't get quite as much detail. And so we go to the belt and we add like all of these different asteroids and bases and ships and things like that. Because where else would famine go other than outer space, where it's already hard enough to grow food and everyone's dependent on a fairly fragile supply chain? So that's Maw of Oblivion. And by the end of that one, that's a second Reckoner gone. And then the third one is Pestilence. And where better for Pestilence in his weakened state to chill out and try to regain his power than a place called the Toxic Jungle, which is like this gouging scar on Banshee's surface, right? Like if Banshee is a living thing, this is like a rash or an infection. Like it's just the worst place on the planet, where all of the life has gone crazy and all of the Anuk who live there have gone crazy, and all of the plants want to kill you and the temperatures want to kill you and everything wants to kill you. So of course, drive into the heart of that and go following this trail of clues to destroy Pestilence before he destroys Banshee, because Banshee's a living being. What would Pestilence like more than anything is to make her sick and drive her insane, making her a mad world. Title drop.
I mean, that was a long time to get to that pun, so I congratulate you on the heavy lifting it took to get there. But that's my favorite. I love it. So I mean, this is a very interesting story because it's I love that we've hinted, we established they're going to be the 4 big Reckoners to be dealt with, but maybe Banshee might survive through the 4 Reckoners, and there might be a story afterwards. So yeah, it might.
Actually, there are 2 planned stories beyond the Reckoners. Whether we get to do them and how soon, depends on how this campaign goes, how the company keeps doing, people supporting us, and right now it's looking great. So we want to tell those 2 remaining stories that we have in mind already. More to come, but of course we have a ton of stories to tell for Deadlands and Hell on Earth too, right? And yes, Hell on Earth is coming back. It's not on the schedule just yet, but we know exactly what we're going to do with it, and we're just trying to make sure we can get everything done with the small team that we have.
And we do kind of like want to finish the Reckoner saga in Lost Colony, so that when we switch over, it's like kind of attention can go fully back to Hell on Earth for a little while, can get a little focus. Yeah.
And I think what I just saw the comment someone made about, there's a lot of lore with Deadlands to catch up on. There's almost 30 years of lore, but the great thing is that Daryl has approached each one of these. You don't need all that. It's a big payoff for those who do, right? You really get some of the callbacks to stuff that's happened before. But we're playing every week in Daryl's game. We're playing this campaign right now, and half of our players have no idea of the lore that we've created. But they just get to hop in. We land in Seaside, this city that we've talked about in the core books before, where these giant fish are caught, these gulpers. And very soon, small spoiler, but it's worth hearing because it's pretty cool. You're gonna have a whole chapter or a whole scene in a hurricane, and it's pretty awesome. And you might just wind up having a fight in a hurricane, which is pretty exciting.
While there's plague outbreaks and everything else going on, it's chaos. Like there's a lot.
Of and then soon after, Daryl's already alluded to, you're going to go into the Toxic Jungle. So we have managed to we have somebody who's a gear hound in our group, and she managed to scavenge up some toxic suits and so on for all of us. But every time you take a wound, it gets breached. So we've taken a lot of wounds, and hatches for our suits have become the most valuable loot in the entire game right now. Oh, no.
Because brought the duct tape.
Yeah, what you have to start rolling the moment your suit gets breached is just awful. It's terrible.
But in a fun way.
Is it though?
There's no death spiral in Savage World. Oh wait, maybe there is.
Yeah, and
Suit
you know, the
Breach.
worst part is, or the best part, Pestilence doesn't mess around. You know, it's not just one disease you can get.
Collect them
It's a
all.
cornucopia
Yes.
of pestilence.
Yep. Yeah, the disease is called Chimera, and it's a multi-headed beast from the greatest hits of all of the diseases that have ravaged humanity and the Anuks. So there's some pretty weird stuff like in there
That's
too.
awesome.
And part of the joy is one of the challenges is how do you make, like, obviously it's a campaign around, you know, a plague and fighting a plague. And there's only two options in that, which is, oh, the heroes just don't get sick, so there's no risk, or you're going to get sick. And then within that part, it's, well, how do you make being sick fun? Like, you don't want to just be like, well, you've got fatigue. Okay, I've got fatigue forever. No, it's, you know, the symptoms, you draw cards and like the symptoms change day by day and like stuff, you know, like add hindrances and things like that. It can be fun.
Yeah, we're pretty messed up at this point. Everyone's acting a little crazy.
I mean, we did gain a lot of wildcard fans during the pandemic. So, hey, guys, you get to revisit, you know, a different form of changing, global spanning, horrid pestilence, but in play form. So, you know,
well,
no masks
but
required.
I mean, and it does change your perspective when you're writing this, right? Because it's no longer
Right.
a mental exercise without anything that you've experienced. You're like, oh no, this is what a city in lockdown would look like. And if it got even worse, like we now know, like, oh yeah, this is how this would roll out. And we want to like enhance that, like take it to the next level because we have pure evil, you know, like walking, you know, the planet physically. So like you can go a little farther with it even than reality, but you know, reality definitely gave us some pointers on how to do true horror.
Well,
Skyline's comment there was great. Call it Corvid.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to say Ermagerd.
Benny in your next game, Tyler, for that one. No, I mean, just as long as you don't make it nearly as boring as COVID was, which I'm pretty sure it's not, because of all things, like you guys play test every single week, but I think I've seen more positive praise posts from Shane on this campaign than most other ones. So Shane, what's the magic about Mad World that's making this playtest go so well? But besides all of the holes in the suits,
well, I wouldn't say that. So the last thing we play tested actually was Han Cluster, which is Tracy Sizemore's campaign that she's coming out with. I posted a fair amount about that, but that's hers, and I didn't want to spoil things that were hers to spoil. But I think I posted some. But this one, I think it just it's Deadlands, and I kind of like Deadlands, so I'm into it.
Go figure.
And I'm really enjoying my character. So I'm playing a psyker named Boomer, who's he's actually, so if you know any Hell on Earth Lost Colony lore, the psykers came from different divisions. Mine was the Wendigos, which was the research division. Our job was to research skinnies and the Anooks and all the weird stuff that we found on Banshee. And I am pretty much completely useless in the adventure so far.
He's been super bitter because he's like, well, I'm built to fight skinnies. Like, I don't know what's happening with this pestilence stuff and this and that. And oh man, there's a Taraka, jungle T-Rex, trying to eat me. Like, that's not how I roll. That's not what I do. Well, they've just gotten to the point where they're about to fight skinnies, and we'll see, if the talk.
Spoiler.
Oh, there's
my guy carries a flechette gun too, because I'm built to fight in spaceships, right? Where you don't want to puncture a hole in the side, and then Daryl throws dinosaurs at us. So. My wife is playing a scavenger. She is far more useful. So she's big on repair and mechanics and everything we need. She can fix up, and she has the edge that lets her find something we need every adventure, which has been critical.
Patches.
Simon's a pilot. He's useless as usual.
Well, the nice thing is the pilot has a little bit of driving, And it's optional in the campaign. Like you might take your spaceship into the jungle. It's pretty tough, but you can do it. But we provide a vehicle because we've all seen Damnation Alley. We've all seen like Arc 2 and all these things with cool vehicles rolling into the apocalypse and stuff happening. So of course we wanted to capture that for Mad World.
Yeah. Our party is very poor at survival and persuasion. And turns out mostly what you need in this part of the adventure is survival and persuasion. So we have our friend Jess, who's really good at scavenging, just buying stuff. She's the gearhound, but she's undead, so people don't really like her. She's a hero. Our friend Mike wants to be a face guy and usually plays a face guy, but the character was just not built for it this time, so he just sucks at it.
Don't you have two heroed in the group somehow?
Well, we do now.
We do now.
We do now.
Yeah. Well, and this is also one of the questions around like designing the campaign was like, this is the third in a series of 4. Like often when we build our campaigns, they're set like assuming this is a new group, this is a season, these are seasoned adventures, these are the archetypes, and we're moving forward. And you can play this one like that. There's some notes. We kind of recommend like, hey, you might want to be at least veteran. And if you've done both the other ones, you should be heroic, probably almost legendary by the time you get to this one. And like, well, how do you adjust the challenges to face something like that? In one of the answers is variety, right? Because not everyone can be good at everything. So there's just like a lot of different approaches and ways. And they're pretty good at fighting, but so far there have been a lot of situations that have called for something other than fighting.
Tracy's our melee specialist, I'd say, but we're all okay at quite a few things, but it doesn't seem like we're really good at the things we need to be good at for this adventure. So we're suffering a bit, but that's the fun part too, right? Yeah. It's telling a story and it's hilarious. So it's like any good RPG. Half our night is spent laughing. The other half is spent actually trying to make progress. So
taking notes, improving the game. Second to having a good time.
Yeah.
So we know it's a big plot point campaign. Is there material that's outside the plot point campaign?
Yes. So there's a quite detailed overview of Seaside. So if you want to set your campaign there before the event kicks off, you can. And after, if assuming the world is still there. There's also quite a bit in the Toxic Jungle because in regular Lost Colony, you can move through the Trail of Spears, and there's a couple of different adventure seeds for that. These can bolster that. We've also got Savage Tales, some directly related to the plot point, others that could be used at any time, in or out. And of course, a few new toys for the players because again, if you're playing in a Nook, one of the things is they adapt to this world. And the Toxic Jungle is part of it. There are Nook who live there. And I thought it'd be really cool, like as a option for a Nook player who didn't get a lot of love in Maw of Oblivion because you're in outer space, which is not a good place for the Nook. If they got some love this time and they got some options like, this is my world. I can live here. And likewise, the Herod and the Guardians.
Actually, Seaside is pretty fun because maybe something I glossed over before, but when Hellstrom was trying to find his way into hell, he built something called the tunnel in space. It's highly riffed off of Event Horizon, right? So he's trying to open this tunnel in space, but he winds up in Far Away. And he's able to travel back and forth a few times, but traveling on the Unity actually requires you to murder someone. That's how hyperspace works in Deadlands. So that became a bit of a problem. And at some point, the tunnel broke down and disappeared or destroyed. And that's why it's a lost colony. So on Banshee, food is a big deal, right? People eat giant insects, so there's giant insect farms, and you'll run into them here. A lot of seafood, which comes through Seaside. So our group has spent an inordinate amount of time deciding where the best fish and chips are. I mean, we got Simon, who's English, in our group,
and the book has the answer.
And the book has the answer.
I still contend the worst fish and chips I ever had was on British soil. It was in Gibraltar, so technically British soil. But it was
Okay.
it was like canned peas and like a soggy microwave. It was not beer battered and wonderful like you can get.
That doesn't sound great.
Yeah, no, it wasn't great. Any hints on kind of on death, on like the next big plot point campaign?
Yeah, I'll of course drop hints because I can't not. But before I do, one thing I do want to roll back to when we were talking about lore and how, yes, you don't really need it, but for those that want it, we start every one of these books with a 2-page recap of all of the important events from other campaigns, including stuff that especially if you went straight to the book and not the box set, you might have skipped Widowmaker, the GM screen adventure, and that kind of matters. Like there's things that move the story forward in those. So we do give a little like update, like, by the way, if you came in late, here's what's happening so that you're up to speed on the basics. The other thing is in the Lost Colony book, it's really funny because John Goff, who did some of the writing too before, he would ping me and be like, wow, it's like you're telepathic. Like you read my mind on this stuff. And I didn't want to say like, there's a sidebar in Lost Colony that says what the Reckoners are up to. And I just started there. So perhaps I'm not as, telepathic as we thought. But a lot of it came from, it's just a seed, right? Like, oh, Pestilence is in the toxic jungle. Of course he would be. What would he do there? How would that look? How do you make an adventure out of it? And that's where I think, because that's not in the plot seed, but my answers to that, I think, are the same as what Goff was kind of thinking, so that we ended up along the same path, because it's almost inevitable.
You don't want to meld brains with Goff.
Too late. We're already there.
But I want to know what John Doom. Why is he recommending a relationship?
This is going to be the best autocorrect change. I'm pretty sure that's a fish and chips place. Or he just really thinks you guys are lonely and you need to go check out the Fantastic.
Hey, I love Daryl, but maybe not in that way.
Well, 16th and Bell, we'll have to find out. What are you putting in your? Never mind.
So that's how I got my job. It all becomes clear.
And you couldn't have done any better.
Fish pun.
Oh, I'm deep frying from all the comments here. Okay, so let's show off the campaign while we got this. Let's see. Boom. Okay, we might have like video inception here for a hot second while we get we do infinite video all the way down. Look, it's gonna go. It's gonna just keep going. There we go. Infinite Mad World. It is a mad world. But thank you guys. We are fully funded, over 16,000 from our 2,000 goal. 300 backers on day one so far. So thank you so much. It's a real short campaign, 16 days. So, one thing I will ask is we are a small company and it is always hard to get the word out. So if you want to run this for your friends or your group, or maybe you've got a hint for your game master to pick it up, do share it on social media. Let them know the campaign's there, that you're going to be taking the fight to Pestilence with us. So with that, let's run through the page so you guys see what all the amazing good stuff that's on tap for this campaign. So as with all of our campaigns, we've got Kickstarter exclusives. You can get the book at retail, but why wait? Because for the same price, you can get some campaign exclusives. So we've got the amazing wanted poster. Simon did a really awesome job figuring out how to make these like holographic even.
Oh yeah. Anyone who picked up Maw of Oblivion and got the war and famine cards know what to expect from this. They're just super cool. Just super cool.
Yeah, I mean, great handout. Definitely, get it framed, but it's got like a really cool holographic sheen to it. It kind of matches the new 20th anniversary suede cover. It's very choice.
And you got to get them all. This is the only place to get them.
Right. And we have a really good deal, like $50 off. If you guys are just getting into Lost Colony, you can get a really good deal on picking up the adventure so far with the box set, Maw of Oblivion, and Mad World. So we'll get to that in a hot second. But also the archetype cards, a map, and everybody loves them. They're the pawns. And I'm going to throw up some questions from before on the pawns because folks really do love these.
Well, and I think some of these bear some speaking about, right? Because the archetype cards, we did archetypes in the box set, but as Shane likes to say, like we've learned a lot since then. And like one of the things that we've learned is like, well, back then we did novice adventurers and for archetypes, and we're like, well, actually it works better with seasoned. And also because the notion was this is a colony, this is more Western than space, regular skill points. But in practice, we're like, well, no, the more skill points rule that you use for more futuristic settings really should be in effect here. So as we're making those adjustments to the archetypes, some like they're already seasoned on the digital. Like if you've got the archetypes already, the digital's already been upgraded. We're going to add the more skill points to them probably before the campaign ends. Like I just finished those additions today. So digitally, if you got them, you've got them. But then we were like, well, we did these changes. Maybe as a fun extra for this, let's reprint the cards with everything that we've learned. So, and yeah, that's those. And then with the pawns, again, pawns didn't exist when the original box set came out. So Maw of Oblivion was the first time we offered pawns for Mad World, and it's got its own set. And in this one, originally we weren't going to do anything like that. We were just going to do a book. It was going to be a nice kind of like appetizer between other things because we know we're all hurting in different ways, and we didn't want to make this another huge box set, whatever. But one of the things that we figured out that we could do pretty early on was just add some sheets to it. We'll just wrap them with the book, and it's not really designed as a standalone product, which is why it lands in that more exclusive area where it's like, we're just going to print some of these sheets up and stick them on your book and, bonus for you.
Yeah, get them during the campaign because they will not be coming to retail. Awesome. And then we have another good big map, two-sided, I think, because we've got the Toxic Jungle on one side and then Seaside on the other
and
side.
And Seaside on the other. And they're in the book, So again, originally it was all designed to be in one place. But the maps came out super cool. And we were like, oh, man, we could also make a map and bind it with the pawns and all of that. So you got that extra prop at the table.
Nice. And for pledge levels, so if you're digital only and you're already caught up, $15 gets you in for just the Mad World book. If you want the physical of just the book, $30. All the cool stuff of the campaign for just $10 more, you get the pawns and the cards and the maps and the one-up poster. So that is our featured $40 Mad World Plus, is what we're calling that. And then if you guys are new to Lost Colony and want to get a super great deal, the digital is $75, and then this one, the roundup, $150 gets you it's like more than like 15 items. It's like all the things from this current campaign. So everything from Mad World, the book, the card, the maps, the pawns, the archetype cards, and then everything from the last campaign, which was Maw of Oblivion. So again, their hardback book, all the pawn sets that match. I think Maw of Oblivion. So Maw of Oblivion, it covers Maw, but it also covers the original box set. Isn't that true?
That one has the Maw and it has the box set and the extras that we did for Maw. So it's like that's like $220 worth of stuff for $150.
Yeah, it's everything.
It's everything, including some of the exclusives that we don't sell otherwise, like the Famine and War cards.
Yeah, so good. So yeah, brand new, and this is a very popular level. We already got 44 backers on it. So
nice.
The Lost Colony
Welcome.
Yes, welcome to the adventure. Welcome to the Toxic Jungle, we should say. And so for folks who already have a bunch of stuff, we also have most of the stuff broken down as add-ons. If you need an extra copy of the core book, it's there. If you want to pick up the box set or Maw of Oblivion or the Black City map pack that comes from Maw of Oblivion, those pawns, like we said, that cover Maw and the original, and then or an extra copy of the book. So those are all in the add-ons. And so yeah, it's hopefully it's an easy campaign to start the year on. We know that the people are just kind of starting to get their tax refunds and recover from the holidays. So
I am now filled with regret that we didn't call that top pledge tier "Welcome to the Jungle." There should also be no regret because I almost broke into some Guns N' Roses and I would have destroyed my microphone and your ears if I had tried to. So,
well, Jody is singing along at home right now. So so let me run through some of so Vinny, so there's a synopsis in the book, so that is awesome. Just at the very beginning of the book, it'll take you through what you need to know. But also, if you want the synopsis from this video stream, YouTube is where it's at. So all of our live streams are archived on YouTube. So YouTube/@PegInc will get you there. And then a bunch of folks are going to run through these really quickly because this exists. It's a thing. We debuted some adventures at this last Gen Con. And we are just finishing up compiling some art and finding the right spot in the year for it. But Padre agrees. So does Venkel. The Seventh Goose of Dark Ages is hot on people's minds. So any comments on? So we've got a really good kind of sense of how Deadlands became Deadlands Lost Colony. But just for folks who might be new, how will Dark Ages? Oh, people are going to zoom in on that, and they're going to find a typo in the third paragraph, and then we'll get an email. But how is Dark Ages kind of going to shake things up in the Deadlands multiverse with the Morgana effect, etc., for folks who might not be aware of the implications of Dark Ages?
Well, let's start at the beginning. So in 1996, the Spawn animated show was on HBO Max. And we were coming out with Deadlands, and we wanted to make a Deadlands animated show that was along those lines, an adult-oriented animated show, which was not as common nearly 30 years ago. So I had an idea for that, and it was the Cackler, and eventually it became the graphic novel The Cackler, and that introduced the Arthurian lore into Deadlands, right? So at the end of The Cackler, spoiler alert if you don't want to hear it, but it's been out a couple of years.
If you put your hands on the outside, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Cackler is Mordred, and he's trying to find his ancestor to bring back his mother's spirit. So he mostly does, and it turns out she is flitting back and forth between the Dark Ages and Deadlands, the Weird West, right? And her primary goal in life is to destroy the legend of her brother. She still hates King Arthur, right? That's what she wants to do. Mordred just wants his mommy back, right? He's a mama's boy. And he's gotten pretty twisted and screwed up, in the intervening 1,000 years. So Dark Ages tells the story of what exactly Morgana is doing back in that time period. It's post Arthur's death, and what she's doing to try to ruin his reputation, from that point forward. And it's pretty awful. John Goff wrote it. It's an amazing story. It riffs very heavily off Excalibur. We even say so right in the book. Go watch Excalibur first so you can get the feel of all this. Simon's pretty hot on it being authentic to the Dark Ages. So you'll notice in the art and as much as possible, we stick to the Dark Ages. So it's not quite the medieval period. The term knight doesn't actually really exist yet. We've made exceptions where the Arthurian mythos blend into it. And I think that blends really well. It actually makes them a little more magical in that sense, where the Dark Ages is very much grounded. It's a little more elevated from all that. And of course, Merlin has his influence, and I think we've revealed this before, but he manages to send some peacemakers, pistol kind, back in time and create an order of paladins who will help defeat not only Morgana's efforts but the Reckoners. So you can play a paladin in our game, and that's what you'll be like, and that's what's on the cover. So how these things integrate, what its effect is going to be on the Weird West. We're going to tell the story of Dark Ages first, and the things that happen there will have ramifications in one of the future Deadlands adventures. We've got a lot of stuff planned for Deadlands, the Weird West. The adventure that I wrote last month concerns a certain very well-known vampire actually coming to the Weird West, and players are going to know that right from the start, so it's not much of a spoiler. What happens after that, however, is universally nuts. It's I'm pretty proud of it. I think you'll like it. So we've got all these strands that wind between the Deadlands milieu, and while we really want to pay off the fans who've been with us for so many years, because we get a lot of that. We always try to make sure that you can just hop right in. Oh, okay, my Weird West posse is going up against Dracula. My Weird West posse, or my Way Out West is going up against Pestilence, right? So it's easy to hop in. And fortunately, unlike comics, you can just hop right in and buy the PDFs if you really want all that stuff, because the print products of those things from before are really hard to get and very expensive these days. I've seen some of our box sets go for over $1,000. So that's pretty tough. But PDFs $10. So it's there if you want it.
Yeah.
And like Daryl says, we recap it for you too.
And we try to wind these in as bonuses, right? Where like if you're following along and we talk amongst ourselves, like, okay, if we're doing the origin of this here, we can seed that with the death of the Reckoners here, and they can say something that's like, wait, what? And then you find out what they're talking about in a whole, in the Dark Ages, perhaps, or some other.
Yeah, and early on when we were first writing Deadlands, the way you did things at the time, not only did we do a lot of splat books, right? That's just how you did things in the 90s. Splat books being like, here's the gunslinger's book, here's the huckster's book, etc. But you also left a lot of threads open to be tied off in future books. And we would open it up into core books and then tie it off in one of the splat books or a city book or a region book or something. And that worked well at that time, but I think people got a little tired of it. We sure did. But what's kind of cool now is we go back through and comb that material for things that I wrote, near 30 years ago. Oh yeah, we were going to do this with this character. This would be a perfect place to put them now. So in Red Tide, that is exactly what happens. You'll see some of the characters from Lost Angels and the Great Maze come back, and what's happened to them. And sometimes it's not so pretty because it's Deadlands. But it's cool because they're there. But if you don't know that stuff, it's just this cool character that's got a little extra text in the background. But for those who know who Dunstan or Hellman is from the Lost Angels books, oh, that's what happened to him. Cool.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, and I get that a lot working with Shane, where I'll be like, oh, go update this area or whatever, and I'll be like, so anything I should know about this character? Like anything important before I blow them up or do something really crazy with them? And he'll be like, oh, no, I've got plans for that one. So,
or the best ones will be, yeah, this freelancer was writing this and he had this whole story and then he went to jail and we never saw him again. So
I don't even know this reference. Well, the Doug Afterwards, who ended up in jail?
Yeah, so Sean Robertson and Kevin Symbieta have been doing these interviews with Kevin about the formation of Palladium. If you haven't seen them, they're really good to watch. Highly recommend them. I would love to just, and it's way too long, and I'm just not a camera guy, but I would love to go through from Deadlands day one and just pick out the little nuggets and all the personal effects that they came from. I'll give you one nugget from a line that is not ours. There was a game I worked on where one of the editors was infatuated with a freelancer, and when things didn't work out, and he put a character that was essentially her in the game world.
Oh no!
And when things didn't work out, he decided that character would go on a rampage and just kill everything in sight and become this utter horror, and that became canon. So, it's pretty funny when you know the authors of, if you know the author of a novel you read, right? Something happened in their personal life and it gets reflected. It's the same thing with games. We put our friends in there, we put our experiences in there. There is a weird cave in, I think it's called the Wailing Doom in the Flood, which is the Grim Servitor plot point campaign for Deadlands Reloaded. That came from Matt Forbeck and I went to Gamma in Reno many years ago, like 20 years ago. And we went exploring around, hopped out of our car and went and found some old mines. And there was this literal hole in the ground, and the wind was blowing through it, just making this creepy, eerie sounds, right? And that stuck with me ever since. And that's where that came from. It's kind of fun to go through it now as I'm combing back through all these things and go, oh yeah, that was this thing that happened. This was that guy that screwed me over and I made him a bad guy.
Yeah. Or in Lost Colony, it's like, oh no, Daryl, please don't murder that guy. He's a friend of mine. Oh.
Well, Lost Colony especially, because the Pinnacle crew at the time, we had JJ Lassiter, who's our best friend, Jason Nichols. The guy who runs the Reavers is Dave Wilson. What's his name? Can't think of it all. It's in the Reapers.
I just forgot it.
Lee Banson was Jolly Ho. Rest in peace. Great guy. And then I was the kid. Michelle was Lizbeth. Jenny was Debbie Dallas. I mean, it was Dave Ross was Dave Ross. So we were all in there. It was a lot of fun. And we one year at an Origins, we all wore our costumes. Pictures in the book, I think.
It is.
And stood against this Army vehicle. The National Guard was there that year, so we took the opportunity to do a group shot. We even photoshopped in some Banshee background and stuff. So we had a lot of fun through the years.
Nice. The I want to pick up on a little thread that you see. You said that Dark Ages was after the death of Arthur, but that doesn't mean Arthur won't make an appearance. Just say it.
No comment.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, one thing I saw go by underneath was someone was asking, like, is Lost Colony the end of the Reckoners? And yes, this is meant to close the story of the Reckoners, at least as they exist right now. Like, this is the culmination of that tale. They are falling.
But you're also going to find out in Dark Ages exactly what the Reckoners are.
Right. Which then might add new questions. And I promised to talk a little bit about death and then totally didn't. So there are many, I've got ideas, some of these like I haven't fully pitched yet. Like I've talked to Simon about them a little bit and Shane a little bit, but what I want to do for the showdown with death is the other thing I like to do with the books is explore places that we know are there in Lost Colony, but don't know as much about. And where I think death would head is to Tunnel Station for a showdown with Vanessa Hellstrom. And that to me feels like the place that everything should come together on Tunnel Station for a final reckoning.
Well, now we've got the title for the campaign, The Final Reckoning. Yeah.
Or The Final Countdown.
My working title is Death Comes A-Knockin'.
Good. Yeah, I mean, we just missed out on Welcome to the Jungle, though. So, I mean, although we do avoid any kind of copyright strikes from, so it's okay.
Fair enough. I thought Daryl was going to sing, and I thought I'd beat him to the punch this time because Daryl sings a lot in our campaign.
I do. Like I said, I try not to do it in this venue because it really will like shatter eardrums and microphones and break things.
Oh, John Doom can attest. I am the horrible singer, but whenever someone says a line from a song, I will just sing the song. So it's just constant during our games. So yeah, it's not good.
Tracy is like true facts.
I don't know if Daryl's going to win any Grammys, okay? But the enthusiasm is always there.
I've literally incapacitated people playing Rock Band because I'm doing the song microphone thing. And my tone is, in fact, pitching up and down to match the thing. But whatever, horrible tone-deaf squalling is actually occurring, like the machine approves, but human ears are bleeding. And literally, like the people on like drums and guitars are like crying. They can't see. It's terrible. Singing not my forte, unless passion counts.
It is. In a different way.
Oh yes. Well, I mean, good thing we all make role-playing games and not American Idol because
Simon Cowell from John Doom there.
Yes. We are successfully in what, season 25 of Deadlands? More 26? The 26? I don't know. It's a long time. It's a good number of seasons of Deadlands. So the
next year will be 30 years.
30. Wow. It's a lot. It's good. Well, congratulations on 30. That's coming up. Okay, folks. So any final questions on the campaign? Get them in the chat so we can run them by Shane and Darryl before we all go back to counting the spelling mistakes, not the cash, but
I go back to work.
Right. Well, so folks who really want to know, we have not put a date on Dark Ages. Very, very likely this year because as you can see, Shane's got the manuscript. He is doing final passes, and the art team is hot and heavy getting final art orders in. So we did a lot of campaigns last year, so we're kind of playing a little bit of catch up on all of the other production cycle stuff. So that's kind of why we're using BackerKit too, just to make it a little easier, give us some more lanes, and the Deadlands anime.
I was just going to say, instead of we will sell no wine before it's time, it's we will sell no Dark Ages until it's in its final stages.
That's good. Yes. Awesome, guys. So I think with that's a great place to close it. The all questions have been answered. And so again, folks, subscribe to our YouTube to get notifications when we do streams like this, or join us on Twitch. We also make sure that there are Facebook events too for you Facebook denizens. We appreciate the dozens and dozens of you who watch these when you throw them up. But the campaign's just starting, and it's going to go for a couple weeks. So give it a look-see. And I think on that top level, the $150 level, it's over $50 in savings if you are not a Lost Colony player backer yet. So probably the best chance you're going to get all the things, and then catch them as exclusives that were only available in previous campaigns. So that's
I'm not a sales guy. I don't like to sell people stuff. That's why they don't let me at the booth when I used to go to conventions, because I just give it all away. But we don't reprint a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to setting books and the like. So if you're interested in Deadlands, I would urge you to grab this, just because if you look at the prices on the old stuff, once it gets out there and we don't have it anymore, it is pretty exorbitant. And you can always get it in PDF too, but if you like it physical in your hands, we just don't reprint a lot. And especially, we probably will never reprint like the foil cards and that kind of stuff, which are pretty cool. Like Darryl came up with those, and I think they're awesome. So I
gotta give credit where it's due. I think that was Donald. Donald really liked that kind of stuff.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Don, for those of you who knew him, he moved on to Larian Games, where he's working on cool new stuff for them. So we wish him well. He moved across the world to Ireland to do it. We're excited to see what he comes up with over there. He was a great help to us.
Yeah, good things. All good things. So, folks, thanks for joining us. We will probably have one more of these, but at least before the end. And Darryl just finished up a creature feature sneak peek. So we will be sending that out probably early next week through Drive-Thru RPG. So keep your eyes out for that as well. But again, thank you for subscribing to us on all the channels, for following us, and even more for backing our campaigns. It really does help us print the right number of these things and do the cool extras. It's almost impossible to do something like the extras with a just straight to retail release. You never know. On one, stores are kind of scary about anything that's not packaged in one big box, and then big boxes are pricey. So the crowdfunding is where it's at for all of those cool extras. So thank you for backing our campaigns. And so if you guys,
if you want to watch the shenanigans of our Lost Colony campaign, make sure you're checking the official Savage Worlds Facebook group on Facebook. That's where I tend to post pictures from our game. We play tomorrow night, in fact.
Nice. So how far along is the group, Darryl?
They are in chapter 3 of 6 right now. Chapter 3 of 6.
So there's a chance there might even be a third Herod before you're done.
Odds are better than you think. let's just say one of the disease symptoms may in fact make hair hoed.
That is epic. Well, I'm super excited on the work of it. One, it is a great line that has touched a lot of amazing authors, and Daryl, you definitely picked it up and run with it. So really excited to see where this one ends up after all the playtesting, and then yeah, one more. Death comes a knocking. I think fairly.
And there's more than just what I'm working on too. Like you said, it's inspired a lot of authors, and we've got some stuff like in the drafts phase, to put together and start doing some more quarterly releases, smaller content, get it out there, keep things moving.
Nice. Oh, and I missed this one. John Dim says he's going to run Legends of Ghost Mountain, so
nice.
I'm volunteering for that. And another amazing. The box is gorgeous. It's like up here. I'd go grab it, but it's an amazing box. I think when we showed it off at Gamma, the retailers were just like in awe of all the cool stuff that's in that box. There's very few companies doing all that good stuff. And again, if you want to see more of that kind of stuff, like for Dark Ages, maybe back our campaign. So we appreciate you guys following and backing and all the good stuff. And I think the last thing is just get out there and play some Savage Worlds this weekend or this week even. It's only Tuesday. Usually we do these on Thursday, so it's like we're rolling into the weekend, but it feels like a Thursday because we just launched the campaign. So we appreciate you folks. Thank you for making Mad World a success on day one. And we will see you guys over the course of the campaign. Take it easy.
Thanks.